بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي ليس لقضائه دافع ولا كصنعه صنع صانع ولا تخفى عليه الطلائع ولا تضيع عنده الودائع. ثم الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أمين الله على وحيه، الخاتم لما سبق والفاتح لما استقبل والمهيمن على ذلك كله، وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المظلومين، سيما بقية الله في الأراضين وحجته على الخلائق أجمعين، الحجة ابن الحسن فداه أرواح العالمين. السلام على الحسين أسير الكربات وقتيل العبرات، الذي سمحت نفسه بمهجته. السلام على من أطاع الله في سره وعلانيته. قال الله العظيم في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، إن تعفوا وتصفحوا وتغفروا فإن الله غفور رحيم. آمنا بالله، صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the love of Fatima al-Zahra, please recite aloud salawat. Ashura needs to be examined and re-examined thoroughly over and over again. For it's been 14 centuries. Speakers have been talking about Ashura, have been trying to take lessons and implement the teachings of Ashura for 14 centuries now. Writers have been writing about Ashura, analyzing the event, dissecting it, trying to understand what happened on that day. Poets have used their imaginations to grasp the magnitude, the ramifications, the implications of Ashura. And we have only touched the surface. Maybe we have only reached 1% of its potential. Because Ashura has no parallel in history. If you compare anything, any event to Ashura, Ashura will stand out. Ashura is unmatched. And all the people involved in Ashura are giants, shining stars that outshine every celestial body in outer space, in the universe. Why? Because everything about Ashura is unique. It's unique in every way. It's exceptional in every aspect. And one of the reasons why Ashura withstood the destructive might of time is because Ashura is intertwined with all the values out there. And these values are timeless. These values are indestructible. And hence the relevance in the story of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. It was relevant, it is relevant, and it will continue to be relevant until the day of judgment. And people will continue to discern the lessons from Ashura. It's relevant all the time. Whether it's the Stone Age, we're living in the Stone Age, or the Ice Age, or the 21st century, we will always be in need of Ashura. Now tonight, I would like to talk about a single incident that happened on the day of Ashura. One encounter with Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. But this encounter speaks volumes about the greatness of Imam al-Hussein's character. It is indicative of the fact that all the virtues that were manifested on the day of Ashura in Karbala represent the tip of the iceberg. And there is more to it than meets the eye. And there is more. There is a lot more embedded in the story of Ashura than what we see. The hadith says, it's a beautiful hadith. It says, خَيْرٌ مِنَ الْخَيْرِ فَاعِلُهُ. If you see someone perform a good deed, the person is better than the act itself. Why? Because it's the spirit that produced that good act. This spirit is what produced that good act. This is why the person that carries out the good act is better than the good act itself. While the hadith continues to say, وَشَرٌّ مِّنَ الشَّرِّ فَاعِلُهُ. If you see an evildoer, the evildoer is worse than the evil act itself. For example, if you see someone who is willing to commit murder, who commits murder, pulling the trigger to kill an innocent person, that person wouldn't mind killing not one, not two, not three, not four, like Pharaoh. In order for him to cement his grip on power, he killed 90,000 fetuses, ripping the stomachs of pregnant women, because he saw a vision that a person will be born and that person will topple him. So it's the evil nature, it's the mindset that needs to be tamed. وَشَرٌّ مِّنَ الشَّرِّ فَاعِلُهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the story of Habil and Qabil, the two brothers. He killed his brother out of jealousy. Now, he wouldn't mind killing all the children of his brother out of jealousy. It's the same mind, it's the same mindset, it's the same evil nature. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unequivocally says in the Quran that a person that kills one single person, this is tantamount to killing the entire human race. وَطَوَّعَتْ لَهُ نَفْسُهُ قَتْلَ أَخِيهِ. He gave himself the permission to kill his brother. Such a person would be willing to kill anybody else and wipe out the entire human race. Now, before talking about the details of this incident, let me give you an introduction that many of you might be able to relate to. What does it take to please your parents? One might say it depends who you ask. Some people might say that no matter what I do, I can't please my parents. They're always not content with me. They're always angry with me. They're never pleased with me. And that's partly true, because there is a gap that separates us from our parents. And we will only start to appreciate how they feel towards us when we are blessed with children. A man comes to Imam al-Sadiq, he says to him, why is it that the way I feel towards my children is not reciprocated? They don't feel the same way towards us. The Imam said, because they are part of you. You feel that they are part of you, but you are not part of them. That's why you find that the children, especially in this day and age, they always complain about the lack of understanding on the part of the parents. Especially if their parents came from a different culture, from a different country. They don't understand the needs of their children. When you talk to the parents, they complain about the rebellious nature of their children. They complain about the fact that their children are not understanding that their parents care about them, and everything they do so out of love and care because they really care about them. They're concerned about their fate. It's not about interference. It's not about intervening in their life. It's about rescuing them. If you look at things from the prism, from the lens of the parents. Now, what does it take to please our parents? Because this is a contentious issue, and it's very difficult to bridge the divide, to bridge that gap, the hadith taps into an area in our brains, in our minds, that is usually deactivated. The hadith says, treat your parents in a way that you would like to be treated by your own children. Yes, you might say they don't understand the needs of the society. They don't understand the age we're living in. Correct. Let's assume that this is correct. One day, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you children, this gap will also exist, will always exist. Because the pace of the evolving norms of the society is so fast that the gap, even though you were born in this country, your children will be born in the same country, but the gap will be wider. The gap will be bigger. And you will expect your children to be more considerate to you. Why? Because you took care of them. You love them so much. And everything you do is out of love and out of care. This is why the hadith says, even if your parents don't understand you, one day you won't understand your children as well. They live in a different world, as we see today. The youth today live in a different world. You see your younger sibling living in a different world than yours, even if he's like 5 years younger than you. So this gap will always exist. Be considerate towards your parents so that, and this is a law that governs the universe. You can't evade this law. You can't run away from this law. The way you treat your parents, your children will treat you. So we go back to the question. What does it take to please our parents? Usually, the parents, they have red lines. They show zero tolerance towards certain things, certain behaviors. And I'm talking about conservative families, of course. I'm talking about our communities. Because you have other societies, other communities. Maybe they feel differently towards their children. They have certain red lines. For example, one of the obvious red lines is they wouldn't want their children to do drugs. Whether it's recreational drug, or the more addictive type of drugs. Whether it's legal or illegal, they show zero tolerance towards their children doing drugs. Because they know that this path, this route will lead to destruction. This is why they can't tolerate it. One might say, but it could be illegal. Not everything illegal is justified morally, and the attitude of the parents is justified. Sometimes you see parents that don't subscribe to any religious school of thought. They wouldn't let their children eat certain food. For example, they wouldn't let them eat chocolate after 5 p.m. even though it's illegal. It's halal, it's illegal, it's kosher, whatever. But since it's detrimental to their health, to their teeth, They wouldn't let them eat chocolate. Now when it comes to things like drugs, the parents, they have the right, we're talking about their children, they have the right to prevent them from going down this road. Or for example, promiscuity is another red line. Whether it's a son or a daughter, they wouldn't tolerate a promiscuous behavior, especially with respect to their daughters. I was mentioning this to one of the brothers. I met a guy who became a friend of mine. He wasn't religious at all. He wasn't religious at all. And what I mean by he wasn't religious is that he engaged in certain behaviors towards women that are considered haram in our faith. He said, what made me religious is my children. When my daughter grew up, I didn't want my daughter to engage in the illicit behaviors that I engaged in. I didn't want my daughter to be taken advantage by people like me. And he was talking about himself. So this is a feature embedded in our souls, in our psyche. Towards our children, you become overprotective, overcautious about your daughter, about your son. And you will only understand how a father or a mother feels towards their daughter when you are blessed with a daughter. You know what it takes to raise a daughter? Every bite, you know how much parents take care of us. They cater to our emotional needs, mental needs, physical needs. And then the daughter grows up. Of course they don't want men to take advantage of their daughters. And sometimes they take this behavior, this approach to a whole new level that is not accepted by our religion. For example, you see some fathers, they wouldn't let their daughters get married. And when you tell them why, they cite the divorce rates in the society, or the abusive relationships, or the abusive behaviors of certain husbands towards their wives. Now, even though this is unjustifiable, but if you look at it from their perspective, they feel that they exerted so much effort to raise their daughter, and they want to protect them. And maybe they don't relate to certain physical needs, because it's a taboo, it's an area they can't relate to, it's repulsive. But according to our scholars, if a parent, if a father doesn't allow his daughter to get married for no good reason, now if there was an excuse, if there was a good reason, for example, the hadith says that anyone that marries his daughter to an alcoholic, فَقَدْ قَطَعَ رَحِمَهُ, you have severed your ties with your daughter. Maybe this is a red line, and it's justified. But sometimes there is no justification whatsoever. That's why our scholars say that if there is no justification, no excuse, then the daughter can break free from the shackles of her father and become independent and choose the husband that she wants to get married to. So they have certain red lines that we cannot cross. And there are certain areas that they don't like us to enter. It's not haram to them, but it's detested. It's makruh. Like what? Like the excessive use of mobile phones. For some people, it's a form of addiction. They continuously use their phone for 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours. And because they're so preoccupied with their phone, they use their phone even when they're crossing the road. They fail to uphold their responsibilities, other responsibilities. Now maybe you might say that, our parents don't understand that with my phone I do everything. I read a book, I do my homework, I contact my teacher. I contact my friends. I do everything with my phone. And the level of independence on the phone is mind-boggling. To an extent that if a person loses his phone, if you are barred from using your phone for 2 days, how would you feel? People go crazy if they lose their phones. They're so dependent on their phone. So one, because people develop this obsession towards excessive use of their mobile phones. Two, because of lack of trust. You can't even trust yourself when it comes to these apps and to these websites. Maybe it's as benign as Instagram, but can you trust yourself that a certain picture pops up of a woman wearing, for example, skimpy clothes, and then the desire is provoked, and you know what's going to happen? This is why when the parents see their children use their phone all the time, they fear that they might be visiting certain websites. Na'udhu billah. So this is why they don't like it. They always nag when they see their children use their phone all the time. So there are things that they don't like us to do. For example, hang around with certain people. For example, staying awake late at night, not returning home early. There are things that they want us to do. For example, they want us to hang around with certain individuals. The problem here is when there is a clash between what we want and what they want. What do we usually do? We disobey our parents, then try to please them our way. For example, you hang around with the guys you want to hang around with, right? But then on Father's Day, you buy your dad a present. Your mother tells you to do things you don't do. But then on Mother's Day, you buy her a present. What they want is obedience. It's not about the workload, it's about obedience. Sometimes you see people complain, saying that my younger sibling, my mother is always pleased with him or her. But even though I do a lot more work than him, they're not pleased with me. Because he's obedient to his mother or to his father. Even if the workload that he's shouldering is not as much as the work that you're doing. Now this is not exclusive to our relationship with our parents. This applies to our marital relationship. She's in mood and she wants you to take her out. But you don't want to take her out. But later in the evening or tomorrow, you want to take her out. Your wife wants you to please her when she asks for it, not when you feel like it. This is the case with our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have desires and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has issued orders. And sometimes we can't reconcile between our desires and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. The majority of the people, they give in to temptation and they fulfill their desires. They satisfy their desires. Then they try to compensate. You sin all day long and then say to yourself, okay, I'll attend the lecture at night and recite dua kumail with everybody else. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from you is obedience, not to please Him the way you want. Shaitan said to God, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered him to prostrate before Adam, to do sujood to Adam, he said, God, I will do a sajda, a sujood that will last 6,000 years. One single sajda that would last 6,000 years. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I'm not looking for ibadah. I'm not looking for worship. You're not going to benefit God when you worship Him. What I want is obedience from you. That's what I want from you. This is why the hadith says that if a person doesn't worship God a lot, if a person just prays his obligatory salawats, obligatory prayers, but is obedient, doesn't sin, such a person is a'bad an-nas, is the best amongst the people, because they obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam al-Sadiq, our sixth Imam, says that one day my father Imam al-Baqir saw me while I was doing tawaf around the Kaaba. We're talking about two Imams meeting each other. Imam al-Baqir says to his son, Imam al-Sadiq says that I was in a state of tawaf and I was very tired, I was sweating. And you know how difficult tawaf is during Hajj, especially if it's during the day under the sun. While I was doing the tawaf, my father sees me and he says, Bunay, Inna Allah idha radiya an abdin qabila minhu al-yasir. If Allah is pleased with someone, He will be content with little bit of ibadah. You don't have to tire yourself. You don't have to exhaust every iota of energy that you have to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A man comes to Imam al-Baqir. He says to him, Ya ibn Rasulillah, I have a problem. I don't worship God that much. Yes, I pray the obligatory salawat, but I'm not the kind of person that would fast like every week and go to Hajj every year and go to ziyarah every year. But what I do is I try to guard my eyes. I try to not engage in any sin regarding this specific desire. And also, I don't eat the food that is haram. I take care of my stomach and the other desire. The Imam said, Anta a'badun nas. The Imam said that there is no worship superior to iffatu batnin wa farj, taking care of your stomach and not consuming the food that's haram, and not provoking your desire outside the framework of marriage. Now, the highlight of the story of this lecture is about this incident. Last night, I spoke to you about Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. Hurr was a commander of a battalion. 6,000 soldiers were under his authority and command. Imam al-Hussein reaches the city of Karbala on the 2nd of Muharram. He is met and confronted by Al-Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. The Imam wants to proceed to Kufa, but Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi comes and stands in front of the Imam. The Imam wants to move, but he wouldn't let the Imam. He blocks the Imam. The Imam goes to the right, Hurr goes to the right, blocking the Imam again. Goes to the left, Hurr goes to the left again. The Imam said, I want to go to Kufa. He said, I can't let you go to Kufa. He said, the Imam then said to him, then let me go back to Karbala, to Medina. He said, I can't let you go to Medina. Let me go somewhere else. I can't let you go anywhere. The Imam said, ثَكَلَتْكَ أُمُّكَ. May your mother grieve at your death. Why? He said, I have orders from the Emir, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. He made the Imam camp in a barren land with no access to water. The Imam could have camped beside the Euphrates, but he didn't let him. Ja'ja' bil Hussein. He received orders, let him camp somewhere where there's no water, there's no food, rough terrain. A lot happened during that time until the 10th of Muharram. He never knew that these wicked men will engage in an all-out war with Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. So on the 10th of Muharram, when Shimr ibn Dhil Jawshan arrived, he arrived with a letter to Umar ibn Sa'd, because Umar ibn Sa'd was hesitant to kill Imam al-Hussein. The letter came from Ubaydullah. The letter said that you either attack Hussein right away, or you should give the standard to Shimr ibn Dhil Jawshan. He will do the job for you. So he hesitantly agreed to attack Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. When the decision was made, Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi comes to Umar ibn Sa'd. He says to him, do you really want to fight against Abu Abdullah, the son of Rasulullah? He said, Bala wallah, yes. I want to fight, engage in a war that would result in the severance of the hands and the heads. Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, he started to ponder upon the consequence of what he was about to embark on. Reflection, brothers and sisters. Abu kullu khayrin wa ummuh. The hadith says that every good emanates from pondering, from reflection, from thinking clearly. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, the commander of the faithful, he says that if you think clearly before you embark on anything, it's like seeing yourself in the mirror. Crystal clear, you see all the ugly spots. If you need to brush your hair, you could see it in the mirror. It reveals to you, it illuminates the path for you. A man comes to the Prophet, he says to him, Ya Rasulullah, adni, could you give me a word of advice? The Prophet said, will you heed if I give you a word of advice? He said, yes. The Prophet said, will you heed? He said, yes. Will you heed? He said, yes. He said it 3 times. He said, before embarking on anything, think, reflect, tadabbar aqibatah. Think about the consequences. All it took Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi was to reflect for a few minutes, only to find himself between the inferno, between hell and paradise. So he began to shake, began to tremble and shiver. One man said to him, Ya Hurr, you're shaking. It was before the start of the war. He said, if they ask me who is the bravest person in Kufa, I would say it's Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. Why are you shaking? Are you scared? We're talking about 30,000 soldiers against 73. You shouldn't be scared. He said, La wallah, I'm not scared of fighting. What I'm scared of is my fate, is the consequence of what I'm about to embark on. He said, I find myself between hell and paradise. And by God, I will not choose anything over paradise. He made that decision. Willpower. He made that decision even though it's the most difficult decision. Because you have to give your back to what? To this entire dunya. To life, to family, to children. He doesn't even have the chance to say goodbye to his children. But he has to make the decision right away. And brothers and sisters, Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi is an example that Allah will use on the Day of Judgment against the people that say, I was engulfed in sin, I couldn't make a U-turn. Yes, you can. Look at the example of Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. So he decides to switch sides and to join the camp of Abu Abdullah. But how? How? He was the one that besieged Hussein. He was the one that prevented Hussein from going to Kufa or returning to Medina. He is responsible for this war. He is responsible for the killing of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. If you wrong someone, then come and ask for forgiveness. If there is room for, to fix the problem, to rectify what you did, there is room for forgiveness. But if the war is about to start, and he was the one that instigated fear in the hearts of the children of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. But that's his only option. That's his only option. فَرَرْتُ مِنْكَ إِلَيْكَ. When you reach that level of despair, you find yourself engulfed in sin, the only door that will be opened for you, the only option that you will have is to run away from God towards God. A man came to my uncle maybe a couple of months ago, and he said to him that I was a soldier. I was in the military during Saddam's time. And I was one of the people that attacked the innocent people in the north with chemical weapons. What should I do to repent? It sent shivers down my spine. What kind of a sin is that? Killing thousands of people with chemical weapons. But this guy, even though his sin is grave, but his only option is head towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether God will forgive him or not is a different story. As we have different types of sins. One of the sins that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will only forgive if the person you've wronged forgives is a sin that has to do with other people. You backbite people, you wrong people, you steal from people. God is forgiving, but they need to forgive first. So that's his only option. What he does, he switches sides. He goes towards the camp of Imam al-Hussein, flips his shield. That's what people used to do when they surrendered. And he flips his sword as well, and he alights from the back of his horse. He goes to the tent of Abu Abdullah. He casts his head down. Sayyidi Abu Abdullah. He wants to introduce himself, right? He doesn't say, I am Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. He says, Hal li min tawbah? Would you forgive me, O Abu Abdullah? The Imam said, who are you? How does he introduce himself? He says, أنا الذي جعلت لك الطريق. I was the one that blocked you, that prevented you from going to Kufa or returning to Medina. I was the one that created all of this. All because of me. I am responsible for all of this. What was the Imam's response? This is the highlight of the speech. The hadith says that there is no way better to please God. It's not easy to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You might go to Hajj, you might perform salawat, worship God, and still not please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the hadith says that the best way to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will be pleased with you, is to have hilm, to suppress your anger, to be forgiving, to pardon the person that wronged you, to have clemency. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen says, وَالَّذِي فَلَقَ الْحَبَّةِ وَبَرَأَ النَّسْمَةِ. By God that created everything, the best way to please God is to have clemency. Suppress your anger. You can take revenge, but you don't. You can respond, you can retort. When someone curses you, insults you, you're angry, you're infuriated, but you choose not to respond. Hilm for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You please God. Allah will be pleased with you. What was the Imam's response? In tubt, tab Allahu alayk. If you repent, God is forgiving. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in certain verses talks about Imam al-Hussein. Narrations tell us certain verses pertain to Imam al-Hussein. One of the verses is Ya ayyatuha an-nafsul mutma'inna irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyya. You are pleased with God, and God is also pleased with you. Why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleased with Imam al-Hussein? For many reasons. One of the reasons is that he was forgiving. In tub tab Allah alayk. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah ya ibn السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين. این حسین کیست که عالم همه دیوانه اوست؟ این چه شمعیست که عالم همه پروانه آقا ابا عبدالله، چون که من اولین نفر بودم که جلو تو وایسادم، اجازه به من بده اولین نفر باشم که برم میدون و شهید بشم. آقا اجازه دادند، حر رفت به میدون. خیلی شجاع بود حر، جنگید تا وقتی که افتاد. حضرت رفتن با علی اکبر، بر بالین حر نشستن، سر حر را در بغل گذاشتن. حضرت چفیه‌ای داشتن، خون جاری می شد از سر حر. حضرت این باند را دور سر حر گذاشتن تا خون بند بیاد و گفتن انت حر کما سمتک امک. خون حر قطع شد. اما ای جانم به فدای ابا عبدالله، حضرت زینب آمدند. حضرت باقر می فرمایند وجد فی بدن الحسین 70 جراحه، 70 زخم در بدن سید الشهدا بود. ما زخما معمولی نبود، عادی نبود. حضرت باقر می فرمایند کانت والله الضربة فوق الضرب. هر زخمی در بدن آقا، این زخم ها ضربه های شمشیرهای زیادی دیده. هر زخمی ها، نیزه ها، شمشیرها. و الطعنة فوق الطعنة، هر کی هر چی داشت میزد. ففرقة بالسيوف و فرقة بالحجاره. یه عده‌ای با سنگ، یه عده‌ای با نیزه، یه عده‌ای با چوب، یه عده‌ای با شمشیر. اما امان از دل زینب. عصر عاشورا که میخواستن با سم اسب روی پیکرهای طاهر برن، یهو قبیله حر آمدند. گفتن این حر رئیس قبیله ماست، اجازه بدید که این پیکر را ورداریم بریم دفن کنیم اطراف کربلا. اجازه دادن، پیکر را دادن به قبیله حر، رفتن دفنش کردن اطراف کربلا. زینب وقتی که این صحنه رو دید چیکار کرد؟ زینب صدا زد اما لهذا القتیل من عشیره. آیا این فرزند رسول الله نیز؟ آیا قبیله نداره؟ آیا عشیره نداره؟ جسد مطهر ابا عبدالله باید روی زمین کربلا بمونه، اما پیکر حر باید دفن بشه در روز عاشورا. این تنه به خون نشسته پیکر کیست؟ بارلاها این حسین است. این گلوی پاره پاره هنجر کیست؟ بارلاها این حسین است. ثمر باغ دل فاطمه است، چلچراغ منزل فاطمه است، نور بخش محفل فاطمه است. به روی نیز جمال انور کیست؟ بارلا این حسین است. خار صحرا و بیابون یک سو، پای خونین یتیمان یک سو، سینه و صورت طفلان یک سو. این که رویش شده نیلی دختر کیست؟ بارلاها این حسین است، مقتل و پیکر خونین حسین، فاطمه مادر غمگین حسین، آمده بر سر بالین حسین. آه این که میزنه به سینه مادر کیست؟ بارلاها این حسین است، شد جدا از بدن او سر او، خفته در خون بدن اطهر او، خون به جوش آمده از حنجر او، این گلوی پاره پاره حنجر کیست؟ بارلاها این حسین است، این زن صبور خسته خواهر کیست؟ بارلاها این حسین است. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم، والعاقبة للمتقين. يا حميد بحق محمد، يا عالي بحق علي، يا فاطر بحق فاطمة، يا محسن بحق الحسن، ويا قديم الإحسان بحق الحسين، عجل لوليك الفرج والعافية والنصر، واجعل فرجنا مع فرجه يا كريم. اللهم اشف مرضانا، استر عيوبنا، اغفر ذنوبنا. وإلى أرواح أموات المؤمنين والمؤمنات، رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.